Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. It's time for us to do a Project Pan update. Just to give you a heads up, there are quite a few items in here that I have finished up, and so I'm just gonna roll in some new items and treat these more as like an ongoing Project Pan for 2018 rather than trying to like name certain projects and keep going with a different type of thread. So we'll go ahead and start with the items that I finished up, the progress that I've made on some other items, and then I'm going to show you the new items that I'm bringing in as well. So the first thing that I have is my e.l.f. makeup setting powder. This I've really liked, but I do have two other full-size pots in my collection that I want to work through before I repurchase this. I have a feeling this might become a holy grail, but I won't know for certain until I try out the other ones. I'm just glad that this is officially used up because I've had it for a while. Also, not surprisingly, I managed to finish up my MAC Prep and Prime. This is in the coconut scent. I didn't have a ton left in here, but I've been finding that I really am liking these setting sprays. When I first picked up the Fix Plus, I wasn't overly impressed with it, but now that I've come back to it, I really do find that it's a really well done setting spray where it keeps my makeup lasting all day. I've had some really sweaty days lately because I don't have a lot of heat control in my classroom, and it tends to be in like the mid to high 70s, low 80s some days. And even with my like somewhat sweaty face, as I'm really powerfully teaching to my students, this stuff has helped keep it going strong. So I'm happy with it. And I have many a bottle of this, so you'll see this throughout the year. I've also managed to finish up the Mario Badescu Skincare Facial Spray with aloe, cucumber, and green tea. I didn't have a ton of this stuff left, but man, it took me a while to get through. I have to say, I have another one of these in a rose scent, which surprisingly I haven't wanted to pull out yet, despite my like obsession with roses right now. But I have to say that the sprayer on this, it was kind of not that great. And so I'm not someone who is that disturbed by like bigger dots on your face, but I just found like this isn't necessarily the finest of a mist, and so while I do like it, it's not my first go-to to buy. Next up, I have the Sephora Eye Crayon. Despite it not looking super small, this is where I'm at with my progress. You can see that I have managed to go through quite a bit of this, but I'm at a point right now where I can't sharpen this anymore. It got like really messed up in the sharpening process, and I kept like nicking my impressed nail as I was trying to sharpen it. So I'm just gonna call this a quits. I didn't really enjoy this. I didn't find that it would ever fully set, and I would actually use my Lorac Mega Pro palette, the black shade, to try to set this, and I constantly would be getting like black marks like into my tear duct, and when I would go to clean my tear duct out, it would just get black all up in there, and it just wasn't fun. And I've not had that problem since stopping the use of this, so I wouldn't recommend buying this. I'm just happy that I managed to use up one of my products that I had pulled for 2018. Any kind of packaging that you guys see with the like weird gold shade to it is the ones that I've marked to try to use this current year. The last thing that I have used up comes in the form of this palette. I have finally managed to finish up my crisp. Like, do you see all that pan up in here? Like, this is a really big accomplishment for me, and I am shocked at how long it took me to finish using Crisp up. I actually started to apply it onto my lips and my cheeks just to try to get the last bit of it used because it was just holding on. I felt like the Crisp shade was probably the most packed shade out of all of these, and so you really didn't need a lot of color, and it was just so pressed in here that it was a little bit crazy. I'm not at all upset to be ditching this palette while Cobbler is still in here. It just is not a shade I love, but I have to say, if you're contemplating picking this up, I really did think it was worth it. I know some people had always said in comments as they were seeing my challenge updates throughout 2017 that they felt like cream products could be hard to use or it might move around your foundation. And while I have found that to be true about other cream blushes, I never had that problem with this, and I really did like it. So, I mean, would I repurchase this? Heavens no. I need to go through other blushes in my collection, but it really was a pleasure to use throughout the year, and I really am happy to have gotten my money's worth. And I feel like this goes on sale quite a bit, and it's a good deal in my opinion. So would recommend it. In case you hadn't followed this, this is what all the shades looked like in the palette. So proud of myself. Okay, now let's talk about products that I have made progress on but have not yet finished. This is the Tarte Amazonian Clay 12 Hour Full Coverage Foundation. When I first started this project, was really dedicated to using this on the weekends. As you guys maybe know from this or heard me talking about it, it is the fullest coverage foundation I have ever worn. And for me, I'm someone who I don't necessarily have bad skin where I'm trying to do a lot of covering. I like more of just like an even application, so it kind of evens out my skin tone, but it isn't doing a whole lot else. So I'm more of like a light to medium coverage person, and this is so beyond that. So it to me looks heavy on my face, which I don't necessarily love, but I've made some decent progress on it. However, I stopped applying it on the weekends because there was like a round of things on the weekends where I was doing things that weren't just like me hanging out with Ben or like running errands, where I wanted to like feel and look my best. And I feel like this doesn't make me feel like I look my best because it looks a little heavy. So I need to get back on the wagon and start using this up again, because once I am using it on the weekends, you guys can see here, this is probably only like 3 weekends use and I got through it. So I could get through it very quickly if I set my mind to it. I just haven't gotten back on the wagon, but I will. I'm committing myself as of this update. The next thing that I have is my Laura Geller Color Luster Lip Gloss. I don't know offhand what shade this is, but I can tell you, normally when I let the product actually settle, you can see straight through to where that line is. I have not yet pulled the stopper out, but once I do, I'm sure this thing will go lightning quick. The reason I haven't done that yet is because it's still getting enough product on the applicator when I go to pull it out. So it is a lovely lip gloss. It's pretty long lasting in my opinion for a lip gloss, so I definitely consider buying it once I go through a lot more of my lip products. I also have my Naked Skin Urban Decay Concealer in Fair. Once again, much like the Tarte foundation, I was really putting in my best effort to dedicate myself to using this. I have made some pretty good progress. I think my marker is here. It's really hard to know because when I take out the applicator and I hold it up to the light, I can't see straight through this. I can't see straight through any of this, but when I look at like the product settle lines, it's really subtle, but I think it's really subtly sitting right here. Truly, once I'm using this full time, it can move quite quickly. It's just not my favorite concealer. It's working for me right now because I am in like the high points of my pale face stage in this part of the winter, but I will be somewhat tan and this will be too stark for my skin. So I need to just get back on the horse and keep using it. But I do have a second concealer in here, which I have been switching over to because I just like this one so much. It's the ColourPop No Filter Concealer in Light. I have made some good progress on this. You guys can see, even though there's stuff on the sides, it's all worked through. This is one of those products that I'm getting close to having to pull the stopper out, and I will get every drop out of this before I place another order. It's just a really, really creamy and long-lasting concealer for me, so I do enjoy it. Next up is my Butter Bronzer. I'll go ahead and insert a clip really fast of where it was at the first update after I had repressed it. And this is where I am now. I have gotten down to showing more pan again, which is exciting. I need to make a solid effort though to start working on other areas that aren't the very center of this, because if I'm being honest, I don't want to repress this before I end up using it up entirely, just because if you can see really closely here, it didn't necessarily repress in the smoothest way, and so I'm afraid that if I have to repress it again, I won't be successful with it, and I don't want to have to buy a new one. I want to genuinely get my use out of this. It still has its like coconutty scent even with me repressing it, so I'm happy that I'm using it. It is a really nice bronzer. It's perfect for me for this time of year because it's not too dark. I think it works well with my pale flesh this time of year. I also have my Mica Beauty Eye Primer. I will once again show you where I was at the initial start. And here is where I am now. You can see that I'm really getting down to like the nitty gritty. I only have 2 sections left. I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks I can get this used up. I really didn't, when I started with this year, that it would take me this long to get through. It's definitely eating into the projected ones that I wanted to go through this year, but it's okay. This thing is definitely on the older side. It needs to be used up, but it is just an excellent eye base. Next up, I have my Tarte Lip Surgeons in Sweet. I haven't really been using this because I ended up using my How About Them Apples palette as my like original lip laydown before putting on a lip gloss, but this is where I am. I'll go back and actually draw a line after I'm done filming this. I really like the look of this on my lips, and I'm looking forward to being able to apply more of it now that I'm done with the How About Them Apples palette. The last product to do an update on is my NYX Wonder Pencil. Some of you guys have been like rooting me on and telling me other tips of ways to use this, but to be perfectly honest, I'm okay not necessarily trying to use this up in a variety of ways. I only use this for one set reason, and that is to put it under my waterline, and I'm happy with that. Like, I don't need to try to force myself to use this in other ways. It's just been very interesting to see how long a pencil like this takes to use. This is where I was at the start, and as you guys can see, there isn't a ton of progress necessarily, but I think it's really authentic to show you how long it actually takes for me to work through one of these products. Okay, so now that I've shown you guys the products that I've managed to finish up, I'm gonna show you the few products that I have pulled in to now roll into the challenge. The first thing that I have is a primer sample. It's the CoverFX Illuminating Primer Base. This doesn't look like it would be more than like 3 or 4 uses, so I'm hoping to bring this in and use up another one of my samples. I also wanted to bring in my Maybelline Baby Skin Instant Pore Eraser. This is another one of the products that I've marked to use up for this year. It's one of the few full-size primers I wanted to use up this year. The rest that I have are more sample-based, and I just want to, before I commit fully to using samples, get through this full-size version. I have to say I've kind of reconnected with this. Even though it's silicone-based, I've been noticing lately with my L'Oreal foundation that my pores in this particular area have been a bit more noticeable, and this actually does help fill them. So I'm starting to rekindle a like for the silicone-based primers. Let's not get too committed to that idea, but for now, I'm liking this, so I thought I would ride that wave and try to use this up completely. I also am getting down to very few eye primers left in my collection. I actually had pulled out the Too Faced Glitter Insurance Primer, and I feel like it was breaking my eyes out in a weird way. I was noticing like little tiny bumps on this part of my eye area when I was using it, and I wanted to know for certain if it was that. So at that point, that's when I brought in my Urban Decay Potion Primer samples, and those little bumps have gone away and not come back. So I'm pretty certain that those types of glitter primers are just too much for my skin. They're just too heavy, and so it causes my skin to react that way. I am going to try the glitter primer one more time just to confirm if that's true or not, and then if it is, I'll get rid of it. But I also have had for a really long time this Wet n Wild Shimmer Primer from Fergie, and I had always been a little hesitant to use this because even though I love the original no color one, they discontinued this whole line. But in that, like in the height of my love of that, I picked up the shimmer one, and it always kind of freaked me out because when I would do a swatch of it, I would be like, that's too intense for an eye primer. So I always kind of just picked it over, didn't use it. But thanks to using the Urban Decay Minor Sin primer potion sample, I actually found that I didn't mind a light shimmer as a primer. So I pulled this out, and I've been using this in that same manner, and I do actually like it. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to work through this entire thing. Once I work through this, I'll only be down to technically one other primer minus the Too Faced one, and then one other eyeshadow primer sample, which would be pretty amazing for me. I think I would probably buy a full-size Urban Decay primer once I get to that point, but for now I'm just happy to be pulling this out and getting some use out of it because I've always actually really liked it. The last one that I have is kind of one of those easy freebies, but it's a MAC Prep and Prime. Once I finished up the other setting sprays in here, I decided to pull out the rose one because I'm having such a love of roses. And I'm actually very deep into the process of this one. It won't take me too long to use up, but I just want to get through quite literally as many of these setting sprays as I can because I went on a setting spray binge at the end of 2017, and now I have an overwhelming number, but I'm happy to work through this. All right, guys, that is it for me. I would love to hear from you how you're doing with using up your makeup collection. If you want me to do a updated filming of my actual makeup collection, let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you in my next video real soon. Bye.